I know. This isn't a fun topic. This isn't going to have the lightness that I usually bring to my Wednesday videos, because Wednesday as a show, whilst having some horror elements, is to me mostly a comedy about the Addams family, particularly Wednesday Addams' refusal to fit in or be seen as a savior, and yet she comes through regardless, reluctantly, while scowling up a storm the way we love. Maybe my taste for horror is a bit different, but I've always been more terrified of psychological horror stories compared to the usual jump scares, because my brain can take me to places that ideally I don't want my thoughts diving into, and often I pay dearly for that. So whilst the monsters might have been terrifying for others, to me it was just par for the course. Except when it came to the character of Tyler Galpin. Because when we finished season 2 and Tyler once again found himself in the clutches of an older woman who is offering him home and safety and family, I legit had the, oh shit, here we go again GTA meme moments. Worse, because I don't really see a lot of the fandom talking about it. And I don't know about you, but I don't like that at all. So yes, today's video will be focused on Tyler Galpin, the abuse he suffered, the grooming he has been put through, and why we absolutely should not be silent in the face of a young boy who is being abused by older authority figures in his life who happen to be women. Because here is the thing, often when the fandom wants to talk about Tyler, they do so with regards his connection with Wednesday and the romance they hope would bloom between them. Now, in my last Wednesday video, I did talk about my belief of Wednesday Addams being Arrow Ace, and so therefore, I don't actually ship her with anyone. I'm not about to rehash the entire convo. If you would like to hear more on my thoughts about how Enid is Wednesday's soulmate in a platonic way, do check out that video. No, instead, I want us to focus on Tyler because, like I said, often when we talk about him within the fandom, it is often done in connection to his relationship with Wednesday. When I am of the personal opinion that we should instead be looking at his relationship with older women. Because clearly Tyler Galpin is quite the representation of a young boy who keeps getting taken advantage of by older women who he trusts, and who in turn end up using him to serve their own purposes. Do I think this is a subtle commentary about how young boys are just as susceptible to being assaulted, but as a society we tend to just ignore it and brush over it, even laugh it off? Yes, I do. It's part of the endemic that is rape culture, where we automatically believe that a man can't be raped and everything that happens to and with him is consensual because all men want it. And so to watch Wednesday, the show, kind of thread that line and point out the fact that Tyler Galpin has all the signs of the typically troubled teenager who is ripe as a potential victim for abuse, which is clearly why Marilyn Thornhill chose him and actively went after him, and yet have a vast number of the fandom willfully skip over that to instead focus on shipping him with Wednesday, baffles me. Because we know how a lot of perpetrators choose their victims. They often prefer outsiders, loner type people who don't have a support system and are often estranged from familial figures, which would make their abuse easier. There's the showering them initially with love and attention and concern to reel them in before the process starts, where they are armed and belittled and manipulated and practically brainwashed. And we know this is what happened to Tyler. His mother to him died when he was young. Like, sure, we now know that Francois was alive and was instead being held at Willow Hill Psychiatric Hospital as part of Project Lois before Wednesday helps break her out. But as at when Miss Thornhill shows up before Tyler, Tyler had no idea his mother was alive. He thought her dead, like the rest of the town. And we also know that Donovan Galpin, who loved his Hyde wife and was terrified of Tyler becoming a Hyde like his mother, chose to distance himself from his son, a situation that Thornhill was able to take advantage of and exploit. I mean, we know she was aware of Francoise's identity as a Hyde. She informed Tyler about it to gain his trust and support, whilst making him vulnerable at that point, which was when she started giving him her cornucopia of specially brewed drugs, which tortured, tormented, and brainwashed him, making him pliable to her becoming his master and gaining control over him, meeting her every wish and attending to her every desire, chief of which was to eliminate all outcasts like her ancestor wanted. Now, before you come around and say that, yeah, but Noria, Tyler did break free of the brainwashing. Even in season 1, he told Wednesday that he took delight and joy in the fear his victims left in their wake as he ripped them to shreds. And you know what? Yeah, maybe his Hyde persona did delight in all the murders and bloodshed and mayhem. Maybe he had always been playing Wednesday from the start, pretending to be someone he actually wasn't, all to serve his purpose and agenda. Maybe he truly did want to see Wednesday dead and was just biding his time. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that he is a child, and Thornhill did take advantage and twist and mold him into who he ended up becoming. That is the very definition of grooming. That he ended up taking delight in all the things he did doesn't negate how it all started, nor does it negate the fact that a lot of his actions are tied to what Thornhill wanted, as she is the master. And I don't think the show tried to hide it. There is a very sexual undertone with the way in which she looks at him and talks about him in season 2 that can be read as being very sexual, masochistic even. Because I don't know about you, but I can definitely see the undertones of a master-pet play within their relationship. And if Tyler was an adult, I would have been fine with that. But the key part of it is that he isn't. He is a teenage boy who, instead of being with people of his own age and working out his attraction to them, if any, there's instead this grown-ass woman who practically pants in this pseudo-sexual way every time she sees him, and we are meant to be utterly disgusted by that fact. Tyler breaking free of his bonds to Thornhill and killing her, enacting on her the very same gruesome death that she had commanded him to execute on others, is poetic in a sense, because that is her chickens come home to roost. Or should I say hide? But her death does the thing where there is now a vacuum in him that needs filling, which is still tied to something that abuse survivors, especially those who have been groomed for a long time, have to face. The long process of acclimatizing to normal society where you had been sequestered away for so long by your abuser until they become your entire world and you are nothing without them now that they are gone. That is why he starts to slip, and there is the ever-looming take of his control slipping from him, which we are meant to read Tyler as being perfectly fine with. Of course, Wednesday decides that she has what it takes to take control of Tyler, and in that moment, when she holds onto the drug and would have injected them into him, forcing him to choose her as his new master, the very same way Thornhill had done, I don't know about you, but I caught a brief glimpse of Hyde Tyler looking like he would have been okay with it. That if it had been anyone else but Wednesday, he wouldn't have been so willing to walk down that path again. And whilst I did see some fans once again bring that moment around to shipping, I instead saw it as the story implying that this would have been ideal. If there's meant to be an exchange of control in some way, it would have been better served to happen with someone who Tyler considers an equal. A girl who is the same age as him, even though her way of thinking is always outside the box. But she wouldn't be grooming him with some delight in the control she has over him like Thornhill did. Unfortunately, that does not happen because Francois shows up in Hyde form to rescue her son and become his new master. And whilst I was with the rest of the fandom hoping that Tyler would finally get the chance to be reunited with his mother and enjoy the love and care to be found in her presence, someone who is like him, Francois disabused both Tyler and us, the audience, of that notion pretty damn quickly the minute she hit him after she declared that she was his new master. And the minute that happened, my heart sank yet again with the, oh shit, here is yet another older woman present in his life who would be abusing and controlling him. Now, thankfully, there is none of the sexual undertones that we had going with Thornhill in this Master-Hyde relationship he has with his mother. Thank the gods, because I also think that was done purposefully to show us how power imbalances within an abusive situation between a young boy and an older woman can take on different forms. With Thornhill, it had this sexual undertone with the master pet BDSM dynamic. With Francois, it is the power and abuse inherent in parental figures who believe that they have the power and authority to control your every action, refusing to listen to any objections you might have, and instead choosing very actively to force their own desires and wants onto you. And that in itself is quite abusive. This belief that your children are merely extensions of yourself and can be seen as having independent thoughts and desires that should be respected. It's why even though Francois knows that Tyler is happy to be a Hyde, she actively takes the choice away from him and commands Isaac to strip Tyler of his Hyde abilities, because whilst it might have been too late for her, she can still save him, going directly against Tyler's wishes, who most certainly does not want to be saved. And yet again, it is Wednesday who breaks Tyler free of his restraints in that moment, once again treating him with the autonomy that can be found amongst equals without a power imbalance getting in the way. As we know, Tyler and his mother duke it out, and Francois eventually makes the final decision to kill herself since she was already dying, a situation that further traumatizes Tyler and isolates him even more, with his mother and uncle now permanently dead. Which of course means it's the perfect avenue for yet another older woman to enter his life. Isidora Capri, nevermore music teacher, werewolf, and unknown to others, also a daughter of a Hyde, with her own personal agenda that she's coached in words that are made to offer family and companionship to Tyler. Her approach is clearly different from Thornhill's and Francois's, but they, just like the previous two, all serve the same function: to recruit Tyler at a moment when he's at his most vulnerable and rudderless, and take on the reins to control him in a bid to serve her own interests, because a commune of all Hydes with no master in sight, where Isidora feels most comfortable, sounds an awful lot like a budding Hyde cult to me, with Isidora actively collecting Hydes like they are Pokemons. Her language might be softer and more affirming, but it doesn't take away from the fact that she, like all the other women who came before her, who sought to groom and turn Tyler to serve their interests and aims, ignoring what he wants, as long as it is to move their needle forward, she wants basically the same thing. And with Wednesday season 3 definitely showing up in hopefully another 2 years, it would be interesting to see where the story takes things with her and Tyler. Maybe finally it would be able to break free of the clutches of these other women who are so hell-bent on using him, controlling him, and abusing him. But these are just my thoughts, of course. As always, I would love to hear yours, your thoughts and your opinions. Do you agree with me, disagree with me? Please let me know in the comments. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. If you can't, however, do consider checking out my other channels. One is a gaming channel and the other holds my ASMR content. I have both linked in the description bar if they sound like something you might be interested in. Whichever the case may be, however, I will see you tomorrow with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.